What if the person you've been holding on to the teeth was never yours to hold at all? Have you ever felt that ache, that quiet hope, that someone would finally see you, only to realize you were invisible all along? This is the story of the day he finally let go of someone who never chose him, and the day he finally chose himself. His name was Noah. 26, quiet, soft-hearted. He was the kind of man who always did a little too much for someone who gave him almost nothing in return. For nearly 3 years, he cared for a girl who never once cared the same way. Can you imagine dedicating that much of your heart to a love that only flows in one direction? Her name was Emily. Bright, warm, effortlessly lovable. She wasn't cruel. She didn't play games. She simply lived her life, completely unaware that Noah was slowly, painstakingly building his entire world around her. Have you ever known someone like that? Someone so magnetic you can't help but orbit them, even when it pulls you apart. He was always there. The late-night listener when she was sad, the emergency comfort when her world fell apart, the driver, the helper, the dependable friend. He was always good enough to support her, but never the one she chose to love. He was the safe harbor, but never the destination. She would call him special. She'd say he understood her in a way no one else did. She'd tell him she was so lucky to have him. But did those words ever feel like a consolation prize? A label given to the person you value, but don't desire? But she never chose him. And every single time she leaned on him, every time she reached for his help, hope would rise inside him like a relentless tide. It was a hope that one day she would finally see him the way he saw her. Have you ever felt that flicker of hope, so powerful it makes you ignore all the signs? But hope, when it's misplaced, can be a slow, quiet heartbreak. It doesn't shatter you all at once. It just wears you down, day by day, until you forget what it feels like to be whole. One evening, Noah waited outside a cozy little cafe, the scent of coffee and rain in the air. He was rehearsing a confession he had practiced in his mind 100 times, maybe more. His hands shook. His heart raced against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear and anticipation. After years of silence, he was finally ready to tell her everything. She arrived breathless, her eyes glowing with an excitement he'd never seen directed at him. "Noah, I need your help," she exclaimed, her voice a melody of pure joy. Of course she did. When didn't she? Before he could speak, before his carefully rehearsed words could find their way out, she held up her phone, smiling a smile that was far too bright for the storm brewing inside him. "It's Daniel," she whispered, as if sharing a sacred secret. "He finally asked me out." And in that instant, Noah felt something inside him crack. It wasn't a loud, dramatic break, but a silent, splintering fracture, the kind that doesn't make a sound, but breaks you all the same. Have you ever felt a pain so deep it steals the air from your lungs? He forced a smile, a mask that felt heavy and wrong. "That's great, Emily." She hugged him tightly, oblivious. "I knew you'd be happy for me. You always are." That night, Noah walked home under a cold, quiet sky. The streetlights blurred through the tears he refused to let fall, as if even the world felt sorry for him. And for the very first time, he allowed himself to admit a truth he had avoided for years. He was in love with someone who never chose him. Someone who only needed him when she was lonely. Someone who liked his presence, but never longed for it. And what was the saddest part? She didn't even know she was breaking him, 'cause he never showed her the pieces. He had become so good at being her rock that he forgot he was crumbling inside. 2 days later, Noah sat alone on a park bench, staring at nothing. The world around him was moving, laughing, living children, chasing pigeons, couples holding hands, friends sharing stories. But he felt stuck, frozen in a pain he didn't know how to escape. How do you move on from a love that was never really yours? An older man sat beside him on the bench. A stranger, he had silver hair, steady eyes, and a presence that felt like wisdom wrapped in a comforting silence. "You look like someone holding on to something heavy," the old man said, his voice gentle and low. Noah let out a tired, shaky breath. "Someone who never chose me." The old man nodded slowly, a look of deep empathy on his face. "Tell me, son, why do you keep watering a plant that never grows toward you?" The question was so simple, yet it pierced right through Noah's defenses. He blinked, the words catching in his throat. I don't know how to let go." The old man looked at him with a quiet, profound understanding. "Letting go isn't about losing her," sighed softly. "It's about losing the version of yourself that accepted so little." Noah felt that sentence resonate in the deepest, most wounded part of him. Losing the version of himself that thought being a backup plan was enough. You deserve someone who chooses you, the old man continued, his gaze unwavering. You deserve someone who doesn't need convincing. Real love shouldn't feel like a constant audition, should it? Noah looked down at his hands, his voice barely a whisper. But if I let go, doesn't that mean I failed? That I wasn't good enough? The old man smiled a soft, knowing smile that reached his eyes. No. Son, letting go is not failure. Letting go is self-respect. It's the ultimate act of choosing yourself when someone else wouldn't. Just then, the wind shifted. The last rays of sun painted the sky in shades of gold and rose. And in that moment, something inside Noah, something tired, something bruised, something that had been holding on for far too long finally understood. He wasn't grieving the loss of love. He was grieving the death of a hope. The hope of what could have been. That night, Noah went home and quietly, deliberately, loosened the grip he'd kept on his heart for years. He didn't disappear from her life. He didn't get angry. He didn't make a dramatic scene or demand an explanation. There was nothing to demand. He simply stopped trying to earn a place that was never his to begin with. He replied slower to her texts. He stopped rearranging his life to fit her schedule. He stopped being available the second she snapped her fingers. He stopped loving someone who only loved him when it was convenient for her. And slowly, painfully, but beautifully, his heart began to feel lighter. The space she once occupied started to fill with something new. Peace. For the first time in years, Noah looked at himself in the mirror and whispered the words he so desperately needed to hear. I deserve someone who chooses me. And that was the beginning. Not of a new love story with someone else, but of a new love story with himself. Because that's the truth no one tells you, isn't it? Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop breaking your own heart for someone who was never yours to hold. It means you stop setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Letting go is not the end of the story. It is the doorway back to yourself. And sometimes, the bravest, most powerful thing you can do is finally release what was never holding you in the first place. But what about you? What was the hardest thing you've ever had to let go of? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might just be the one that gives someone else the strength to begin again today.